What is up, everyone? My name is Sharp Thunder, and today is a very special day. Today I have now decided to talk more about, or to actually reveal, one of the reasons for making this channel. My book, Creatora, Rise of Lavaom. For a while now, I've been offhanding it to people. I realize that this is a very technological base of social media. Very technological based society, so I must abide by the technological basis of society. Now, allow me to explain to you about Creatora. In a time before times, we're only going to explain part one, the details of part one, and how part one will be the site of impact for our group as the journey continues. Now, part one is, as you would know, consists of a flashback, so to speak, into the war between the Lavaoms and the Phytorans. Now, let me first get to this understanding, to first get to what this world is. This world is after a post-apocalyptic universe, not just Earth. This is post-apocalyptic universe. An event that has happened, in which this event killed off 99.7% of human life. So to put it simply, only a few humans left, and these humans were changed, but we'll get to that. So how about I explain this? The world now is, in a way, the universe is now completely different. Universe anew, so to speak. This is basically in particular, form of recreation. So to explain the world of the Phytorans, to explain the world of Creatora, we have to first look at the change. The change was a happening in which the might power of the great beyond had changed so much of the universe, in which DNA became scrambled, so to speak. Now, I know what you're thinking, why would anyone ever want to do? Well, the funny thing about the humans is they were changed, but at the same time, there's not any left. So, part one begins in a flashback with the war between Phytorans and the Lavaom. Now, again, Phytorans are basically what you would get. It's my take on, people who have photo-like abilities, Pokemon-like abilities, so they ability to control plants. So basically what happens when you take a druid, a trent, and for those who know D&D, a druid, a trent, an elf, and a druid, an elf, a trent, and druid, elf, and trent, and dryad too. But my own twist of it. Now, Phytorans tend to be, I will get into their anatomy later and their stuff like that. But part one consists of, in a beginning of time where it was a war between the Lavaom and Phytorans, Generals Zakar Lekar, and Corporal Claude Drake, to be precise, were escaping Mount Runabyron Fortress, a fortress held by the Lavaom for so long that they have just destroyed. This was nearing the end of the war between the Lavaom of the Ninth Age, actually. The Lavaom of the Ninth Age, the current ruler was a reptilian. Hence, there will be a city named after him. Unfortunately for the Lavaom, and to get the gist of the Lavaom, the Phytoran king, King Goric, had slain him. But we'll get to that later. To put it simply, the schematics of this is Drakali Kar and Claude Drake had just escaped the fortress. They're now literally on a lava boat in a sea of acid and brine, slowly succumbing to sulfuric leukemia. And yes, things happen so fast here, causing the cells to rupture and stuff like that. In their last moments, they received a call from another base, the Akaro base, and it wasn't them. They were Infernals. Can't reveal specifically yet, but they have killed their own troops and took their forms. There's a lot going on at this particular point, and with no place really to go, they set sail through the Sea of Brine to unknown regions. This was during the war between the Phytorans and the Lavaom of the Ninth Age. Now when I say Ninth Age, Ninth Age is like an ending point in a time of ages, the time of the Conquerors. Here's the thing about the Phytorans. We now start with the actual group in the story in a city, a small town, where young Phytorans begin what is called a rite of passage for all Phytorans, hybrid or otherwise. Phytorans of every tribe must embark on a quest or a journey. The quest of this journey is solely dependent on how they come back as adults. Most people start this at 15, 16, sometimes maybe even 17. But they do start this journey and become greater adults for the better. This is why they do this. And jungle ain't a safe place. Forest isn't a safe place. You got shooter birds, projectiles all around. To explain what those are, shooter birds are basically the evolutionary change, fused DNA of a woodpecker and a hummingbird. They're the descendants of woodpeckers and hummingbirds, and others think, well, wait a minute, these guys can't reproduce. Well, the change did a lot of stuff to their DNA. We'll get to that. We'll talk about the change in another video. Projectiles and shooter birds litter the ground, and they have beaks of steel, which their beaks are so darn strong, long and sharp and thick, they can go right through your body. And then, yeah, there are other different creatures in there as well, such as Dractus. Dractus isn't really a creature, she is basically an aspect. Now, I know what some people are thinking, oh, well, she must be a goddess. I wouldn't call her that. I would call her more like a aspect of nature that really is very down to earth with her creations, the Phytorans. Now, again, when I say the great beyond, I am talking about big man upstairs, but I have to say change it another way. I'm basing it off of, but again, I am basically pointing it as we are in an area where now these boys are starting their journey. So let's begin with one of the characters, Gorky. Gorky is a very leaderistic type of guy. You know, he's one of the many types of Phytorans that, you know, is very law-abiding. Your classic law-abider. Well, what's a classic law-abider? but he has a problem with taking up the reins of responsibility when it's truly needed. And his journey should teach him more about being a leader. Then you have Viscas Savrak. Viscas Savrak is part of a privileged family. However, you would not think of it the way he acts and works and toils. Viscas works and toils with himself on a constant basis. He's trying to be down to earth with other people. He is an extreme workaholic and will constantly try to help people no matter what. No matter how much money he has, he will constantly try to give it to those in need. This trait of non-selfishness and not using people for political currency will get him loved. Then we have cold or seer. A boy not ripe for words, does not much between oaks. That brings me to the tribes of Phytorans. The tribes of Phytorans on the main tribes, there are many more, and I will explain this into another video. But the main tribes here that we will be taught that we are going to introduce in this video are the eucalypta, the bluegrass, the rose, and the orchids, and the oaks, but mainly the eucalyptus, the oaks, the bluegrass, and the orchids, the four most powerful tribes in the entire Victorian nation currently, or excuse me, the most known to be precise. These tribes now exist in further realm with one another as a coalition. Now, let's look at many of how they came to be later. So the journey starts as we get a good bit of dialogue between Gorky and his parents, trying to get him to be a better person, to take the reins of being a good leader, which Gorky's hesitant about because he's afraid he'll mess up. Gorky is told by his parents to just trust himself. Classic cliche, nothing there. Now, here's the thing, what makes Gorky different is Gorky's never experienced. Gorky's very used to survival, but he's not experienced trauma. And we'll explain this at near the end of part one. Because there's a lot of trauma now. With Viscas, it's a bit different. Viscas is very down to earth, very stuck, rooted in reality, but at the same time, he's not very helpful when it comes to certain things. He'll most likely complain a lot, but he'll try to help anyway. These boys are not warriors. They're not trained to be warriors or hunters. That they're taught hunting, but it's not to say mandatory. Yeah. To be more precise, it's rather difficult for Viscas to, realize and live in the limelight because he's used to working. He is the type who will go out in the fields and work. Now, funny thing about our third character, Cole Brazier, is actually the cousin of Viscas Savrak and Gorky through marriage with Viscas. Technically they're cousins, but not really, but still. They're ancestors. We'll get to that soon. In another video. The bigger issue is, in reality, they run into a lot out on their journey. Now we come across to Cole with him not being adult, but the interaction with his parents is very subtle. It's not much to be said. I want a trail, son? Yep, Pop. See you later. It's not much. There's not much to be said with Oaks. Oaks are they're very relaxed yet straightforward society. I'll elaborate. I mean, it's not basic, but I'll elaborate on that later. To best describe Viscas, Cole, and Gorky, they're not three character tropes. They're actually going to surprise people over time. Then we have our fourth character, a mysterious young character. Doesn't seem like a Victorian. He seems like something else. Something otherworldly. Yet he looks like something eternal. But we'll get to that. Something that can live eternally. But let's get to that later. His personality, he lives with Devika. Yes, Dractus. He lives with Dractus, which in the form of Devika. I'll get to her in another video. Devika raised naturally when he was very young to the point of adulthood. Now, he is going on the same journey just as every other Victorian does, even though he's not a Victorian. So, they head out into the woods. Little did they know that they will all come across each other in the same area. So they all came across each other, instantly recognized each other, all living in the same city. Sat down, had a few laughs, sat by a fire, and wrote some time with each other. Now there's a little bit of conflict to where they say the bluegrass do all the work, while the eucalyptus make the rules, and the oaks sit there kind of just being the guard, while the eucalyptus seem to just be getting fat. Now, here's the thing. There are some tensions, but not a lot. So I will say that there are some particular things going on between the tribes. This is a strong indication that the alliance is frail at this point in time, not like at the time of King Goric. Now, let's look at the future obligations of our heroes. They then hear a demonic voice say, such vulnerable food. Such vulnerable food. This is in secret actually Dractus. Okay, there's more to it than that. We'll elaborate more on her. Point is, she's an aspect of nature, but she's actually testing their survival. But they don't know this. Mind you, Dractus is going to try and kill them. That is what she does. Yeah, this book is, things are gonna get darker from here. So the first thing the boys do is what any young children would do, scatter. Now, mind you, these guys are 14 years old, so they're not 10. First thing they do is scatter, and they scatter. And in a couple of them, they say, well, we can't outrun her, and you can't outrun Dractus. But they don't know the creature. They look upon a creature what is described as an amalgamation of a lizard and a mantis. Yeah, try picturing that in your head. And it's crawling on walls faster than you can say oops. So now we're dealing with this being, and now, so the first thing he does is Viscas takes a swipe at his leg, Groot can hit its leg in the face, and then as Viscas tries to intervene, Viscas gets knocked into a tree, and his leg is literally broken to shit. And this disables Viscas. For the time being, he can heal as Praetorians have regenerative capabilities. After they successfully carry Viscas and manage to get to the other side of the forest, you see you'll be reading it, a mysterious voice says, "Well done, my children. This is Dractus." Now, as they go further outside the forest and into a small little town, there is a tavern there, and here is where they meet Velova Maragos. Velova Maragos is not a Praetorian. She just shapeshifts to look like an orchid Praetorian. Velova is described physically as having red skin, yellow eyes, well in shape, and extremely, how can I say, very outward in personality. Upon meeting the four boys, she immediately looked upon the skies, and their eyes met as a shimmer began to glow. This, in particular, was a lock-on. But we'll talk about that in the Elder East later. She is actually from the Elder East, a name deriving from Croesus, once the richest man in the world in the great old kingdoms of the past. A king of Lydia, specifically, whose name alone signified riches. And El Dorado, the city of gold and untold riches, the city of lone legend. Now, here's the thing. After they meet Velova has a talk with Viscas in secret, saying that she's actually an infernal, which doesn't really bother Viscas, as again, the schematic of this book is, I'll discuss later, but hybridization happens all the time. But infernal does ring a bad bell with many others, despite this. Now, most people do not know this, not even discuss other relatives. This is where she goes with them on their journey, in exchange for giving them rooms for the night. Now, to best describe Belova's personality is she's highly flirtatious, outgoing, just very serious in nature. One of the many things that a lot of us has put into perspective is that many think that it's too R-rated, but yeah, this book isn't for kids, so there's gonna be a lot of things here. So as they continue on through the forest, they run into what is called Amiga, or they run into the old, lost, wild onion tribe. And they're in the middle of a Amiga, which means hunting games. They each fire arrows. One larger discusses leg again. That's what I'm saying. Seems to get injured a lot. Mainly because this guy just rushes in. This enrages Valova to a point to where she goes into her eyes glow red, horns begin to go out of her head, and she proceeds to murder one of some of the wild animals by ripping their bodies in half. Yeah. So this caused the wild animals to retreat, and coming out of her state, Lola kind of stares at Scott and the others, and they're a bit perplexed that she was able to go into a rage and go over, which they weren't expected, but they're scared. They just don't want her to be pissed off any further than she already is and just thank her. They say I'll be a group, what they did to kind of hope to settle things with it.